Hello, I'm Michael Wagner of Education Unlimited, and today we're speaking with Janette Oke, one of the most popular novelists of modern times. A 2001 issue of the Report magazine mentioned that she is Canada's best-selling author. At that time, about 20 million copies of her books had been sold. Since then, millions more have sold, and other figures of sales are now 22 to 24 million and even more than that. As well, Professor George Melnick of the University of Calgary has pointed out that Janette was a pioneer in the field of writing Christian novels. So she was breaking ground for other Christian authors who were able to write into a market that Janette Oke had helped to create. Thank you, Janette, for speaking with us today.
Thank you. It's my privilege.
The first question I'd like to ask is the modern homeschool movement has only been around for about 30 or 35 years. Do you remember when you first heard about the movement and what you thought about it at that time?
Well, I don't remember any specific time, but it was rather a gradual thing. When I was much younger, of course, it wasn't an option at all. But gradually you would hear of one family or another that were deciding to go that route. We know that all parents, education for their children is paramount in their thinking. And so it's a way of deciding what works best for you, what will suit them the best. And so it was a reasonable thing that this would come into our society.
As you become more familiar with home education since that time, how has the familiarity with it changed your view of it?
Well, our first experience was with our daughter Laurel. This happens to be a U.S. story, so it's a little bit of difference there, but her first child, her son, surprised us all by starting to read before he was 2 years old. By the time he reached kindergarten, he was reading very fluently, very well. And the first day that he went to kindergarten and then continuing on, our daughter noticed that things just seemed like they weren't working well. And she didn't even know until the end of the year what it really was until he started telling her. And what had happened was his first day of school, the teacher took him to the principal's office to read for the teacher. And from then on, throughout the school year, she squelched him the whole year to make him fit with his peers. And so he just was not motivated at all. And when Laurel discovered that, she decided, you know, I'm not sending him to public school. I'm going to keep him at home and teach him myself, and I will try to keep him with his peer group, but I can give him lots of enrichment. And so that's how we started.
Do you remember any of the challenges they may have faced when they began homeschooling back then?
Well, I do know that if one makes the decision to homeschool your children, you need to be prepared. There are a lot of things available now, but it's a full-time job. And so you need to study and find out what the options are, where your help material is, what the best course material is that's available. With Laurel, she also studied the learning processes. And she discovered that with her children, each one of them learned a little differently. With her first boy, who was the one that had gone to kindergarten, he was a classical book learner and ended up with a 4-year, totally paid expenses scholarship to Purdue University, where he graduated in computer science. The next daughter was very different in her learning. She was more linguistic. She was a precision student and is now a Spanish and English teacher. The next daughter after that was totally different as well. She was a very soft personality, gentle personality. And she found that her learning was best when she heard things orally. She was an auditory learner. And not only did she need to hear it, but she needed to repeat it herself and hear it again from her own voice. Then they had a boy who was totally hands-on and very energetic. He had to have his sit-down lessons, but he also had to have opportunity to move around and do things hands-on. And then she brought 2 new ones into the family. two little ones from Russia who were 4 and 6. And again, they had a big change because these little ones were learning English as well as their lessons. So it was very helpful to be teaching them at home. It took a lot of the pressure off because they could learn the English language as well as the studies until they caught up to their peer group. So that was very helpful. So you have to do a lot of studying in yourself and be prepared for it and be committed to it. But there are a lot of helps available. So there are a lot of pluses involved. I think the main thing is that you know your own children. You know how they best will learn. And so you can suit your lessons to them. It's not like a teacher with 20 or 30 students in the classroom. You can take extra time with them. You can not only teach them their school subjects, but you can teach them a lot of things other than that. If you are a parent that it has particular moral and ethical values, that can be taught at the same time as well.
Do any particular scripture passages come to mind that you think would be encouraging for homeschooling parents?
Well, the first one that comes to mind is train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is older, he will not depart from it. And I think that homeschool parents have that wonderful opportunity of not only teaching the lessons from the books, but also the moral and ethical lessons that they hold dear. And so that gives opportunity to integrate that into all of life.
Do you have any particular advice that you would offer to parents who are considering home educating their children?
Homeschooling is a big job, and it's a very rewarding job, but you have to be really committed. I think it's wise if you can have a space that is just your schoolroom, if that works in your house. Certainly the children will spread out to other places, but still it gives them a central place that they connect with the school and where all the supplies are kept. There are a lot of things available now. You can integrate online material, and you can also go to the libraries, make sure the children have library cards so they know how to check in and out and what is available there. I know our kids just love going to the libraries. That's their favorite day of the week. And so, yes, there are a lot of things that one can take advantage of. It's also wise to know your provincial rules and regulations and what kind of assistance you can expect. So homeschool moms and dads have to do their homework too. I think the biggest challenge is to figure out which learning style best suits your child. So you have to be willing to do some studying yourself. You don't need to be a certified teacher in order to homeschool, but you have to be prepared to learn, and you also have to be open to checking out what's available to you. There's a lot of different course material out there. There are helps and aids and library facilities and all sorts of things that are available, but you have to fit them into your schedule, your home environment, and so it's a full-time job.
Besides challenges, sometimes as homeschooling parents, there's certain highlights in our educating our children. Do you remember any particular highlights that may have occurred in Laurel's homeschooling experience?
Well, I wasn't there personally, but I have heard them talk of some of the field trips they've been able to take, and they have done quite a few. The children have particularly enjoyed the ones that show them both history and culture. So they've been able to go to Washington, D.C. and to some of the Civil War sites and follow the travels of Lewis and Clark and many of these different things. In fact, they even, as a co-op group, built a small log cabin when they were studying the pioneer days. There have been many things that they've been able to do connected with the co-op. Co-op is a wonderful way to give children who are homeschooled more sociability, more opportunity to have their sports, And also our kids did dramas and musicals. They did all the costuming. They had parent night where they invited parents in, and they wore the costumes and introduced them to these different countries they were studying, served them the foods, everything. So they get very involved in learning about other countries as well.
So when you speak of co-op, as I understand it, that would be various homeschooling families just coming together and kind of sharing some of the educational experiences of the children together. Would that be
That's
a way of explaining
correct.
it?
That's correct. And I think it gives them the best of both worlds because they do get their socializing. They are more community minded. There are projects that they can do together as well. If there's a particular need in the community, the co-op can step in and encourage the children to become involved. So it's a great way of expanding their horizon. In our daughter's case, she got no funding from the state, but then there were not all the regulations from the state either. She said she preferred that to actually, you know, having him telling her what she had to do.
No, I agree with that totally. Like, we live in Alberta where the funding's an option, and my wife and I decided right from the start we don't want any funding. I mean, that hurts financially, but we wanted the freedom. The freedom was more important than the money to us, so we said no thanks to the money for the exact reason that you mentioned right there. As a writer, have you noticed anything that would particularly distinguish students who've been home educated from other students?
Absolutely. I get a lot of reader mail, and I can almost pick out the homeschoolers. They are more articulate, they are more into reading, and they are able to work a little more time into their reading because when they're finished their lessons, they can pick up a book. And with only a few people to teach in your homeschool, there is more free time. You can get through your lesson material more quickly, and so they have this added ability. Also, they are more community-minded. They seem to have a better view of the world and how it connects them. So there are a lot of pluses. And in the U.S., word is out that the more prestigious universities are looking for homeschoolers. I suppose you've heard that as well.
So I take it from what you're saying that you would encourage parents to look into homeschooling as a potential option for educating their own children.
I think it's a wonderful option. I really do. And not only is it a good way of learning, but it's a good way of bonding as well. But of course, different personalities need different things, and parents are more likely to know that about their child. So I would highly recommend it. Our daughter-in-law also has chosen to homeschool her 3 boys, and she taught school for 2 years before taking on this task, before her own came along. And the boys are now 13, 11, and 9, and they love homeschooling.
Janette, I just want to say thank you so much for this opportunity to speak with you about these issues. I know that many things that you've said will be very helpful for parents who are looking into homeschooling, and will be very encouraging for those who are already homeschooling. So thank you again for being with us. And this is Michael Wagner from Education Unlimited saying thank you for watching our video.